Now we get to 21 through 25. And I'll start the conversation, Ira. Here's where we start getting into the offensive line. I'll just tell everybody we're going to start seeing offensive line, as you said today, on the wildly popular JCS. But like everybody's bored with Akeem Dent, but he's a starter and he starts and he's seemingly started forever, and he's whatever. But then everybody else is fun to talk about, and including in that, like right off the bat at 21. Ira, Grady Vance, when he got here from Louisville, I thought he sucked. When I watched him at practice, he was grabby. There were no fundamentals. He didn't have great speed. I just thought Grady's not going to really be able to help you. He's going to get called for pass interference on the regular.
Right.
I mean, on the regular. But, buddy, he's really gotten to a place now where he can help your football team in a big way. I think it's interesting he came in at 21. I know I'm going in reverse order. I'll get to Casey Roddick. We'll back it back up. But I really thought Grady Vance is the one that stood out on this list, 21 through 25, as he came in through 21.
Yeah, I just looked up my ballot, and I had him at 17 going into – that's where I picked him. And, yeah, man, he's you're 100% right what you were saying. I mean, if you go back to last preseason when he got here from transferring in, we felt like it was basically a fair trade for Jarvis Brownlee. Like we wanted to see how it worked out, but we didn't have high expectations for him. And then when he came in, he would make plays. He would intercept a pass here or there, break up a pass here or there. But man, you just felt like once officials brought yellow flags out, he was going to be in trouble because he was just doing a lot of, as you said, grabbing and holding. And then, once the year went on, man, you just see him get kind of more and more confident. And there was a point, I don't know, man, 4, 5, 6 games into the year where it totally changed, and he became probably their best nickelback. I mean, I think he passed Kevin Noles, and he ended up starting a lot of those games in the second half season. Or if he didn't start, he ended up playing more snaps than Kevin Noles, and real productive. And I thought there were a couple plays last year. There was one play last year where he, in zone came off his guy or came out of his area and broke on a pass and picked it off, which was a nice play. We just haven't seen Florida State be real productive in zone defense. And I think that's an understatement. Okay. But yeah, I mean, so to see them, it was coached the right way. He understood it and he made the play in a game. It was cool to see. And I think he's, just kind of gone from there. We saw it in the spring. He had a really good spring as well. So yeah, man, I had him at 17. I think that 21 might be a little low, but it does show how far he's come, because he's a guy that a year ago, I don't know we would have expected that.
Well, I'm probably the reason that he fell. I had him at 29.
Oh.
And so you can get mad at me. But I thought I was being friendly. I would not have had him on my top 40 when I first saw him, and maybe I held a grudge. But he's gotten so much better that I had him inside the top 30, and I thought I was being generous. I was worried you guys were going to be like, what are you doing? But apparently I was too kind. I mean, not as kind as you guys. But I think you may be right. I may be wrong on this, but I think Grady Vance is a viable player here. Another player really quick before I address the offensive line. People get mad at me on this. This is probably me. Where did I have Lawrence Toafili? I know you guys get mad at me. This is the burden I bear. I had Toafili. No, I had Toafili at 26. So that's not bad.
I had him at 19.
Okay.
19.
All right, so he's 22. I don't feel too bad about that. We're within the margin of error there. Listen, I think Toafili is a really good wide receiver. And I purposely said wide receiver. I love him catching the ball out of the backfield. I think he's exceptional. I think it's a rare skill to have that much ability to catch the football out of the backfield. And you can line him up. Heck, you can line him up in the slot. I really feel like you could line him up to where he could be a receiver, like a legitimate receiver for you. He's that kind of good with hands, route running, the whole deal. He did hit the hole harder last year. I just think you have other guys that hit the hole just as well and are bigger and stronger. So none of them are as fast as he is. So to me, like getting him in space and catching the football is the role that he plays.
Yeah. I mean, I don't disagree with you. I mean, and he's certainly come a long way from 2 years ago. I think, there were some runs during that, his first year or two here, where you just were like, man, that's not it. Like, you got to hit that hole. You can't bounce. You got to know your situation. You have to, and not every hole, not every play can be bounced outside. You got to hit some of these holes. And I thought we saw more signs of that last year, which was really positive. To your point, though, like, yeah, man, I mean, obviously, Trey Benson's your number one. You could make a case that Rodney Hill is a more natural running back, and we haven't
I think
seen.
He is. I think he is. Period.
Yeah, he probably is, and we haven't seen enough of Keziah Holmes really to know. He was on the scout team last fall after transferring in from Penn State, and then this spring he was not always available. So I don't know if we've seen enough of Keziah to say for sure. He's definitely bigger and stronger, like you said, but I think Toafili is still going to be in that mix with Rodney Hill for the second most carries, and then like you said, man, his special sauce is as a receiver, and he's not just the nice thing about it, and I think you were alluding to it. It's not just some running backs can catch a ball in the flat, they're wide open, and then they've just got to turn and make a play, or maybe they'll catch a wheel route where they're wide open. Toafili, we saw in the spring, man, he'll make contested catches.
Oh, dude, he's a receiver. Yeah. I'm telling you, he could play receiver. I think he could play receiver. I like Lawrence Toafili, especially St. Pete kid, man. I love him. I mean, I root for him all the time. I think we got off on the wrong foot. A lot of people have heard me kind of trash him as a runner, as a running back, because early in his career, he did the thing that all running backs do straight out of high school, especially fast ones. Really fast running backs have the hardest time adjusting. It's the craziest catch-22, because on the one hand, you're an elite runner with vision and speed, all the things that you want for a running back to be. But in high school, when you're the fastest guy on the field and things break down, all you got to do is get to the edge, and it's over. You're going to run past everybody. And it can take a while to break through that. And then he comes to a situation where the offensive line is average, below average. And so he gets here, and I thought it further developed a bad habit. I thought his initial bounce was always to the outside. And I just thought, man, that ain't going to work. We're not good enough. You're going to have to hit the hole. We need 3 yards. We need 2nd and 7. We'll take it. Stop doing that. But then over time, he started to catch the ball at an really elite level. And so I had some respect for him, and he started getting – well, I always had respect for him, but then I started to respect him more about his complete game. And then he got bigger, he got thicker, and he started to do things that gave you hope that maybe he'd start hitting between the tackles. I just don't want people to get the wrong impression. I don't dislike Lawrence Toafili. He's an asset to your program. He's an asset to your backfield. But I think if we want to run between the tackles, we have 2 or 3 guys that run it better than he does between the tackles. He's an elite pass catcher. That's the way I look at him.
Yeah, and I think he's a guy that you root for because he stuck it out. I mean, like, especially probably a year ago, I think that when you start bringing in transfer running backs and, and things aren't going great for him, a lot of guys at this point, especially with the transfer portal, are looking to bounce. He's been loyal. He's stuck with them. He was go back to Mike Norvell gets the job. And a lot of people made a big deal about this. I don't know how big of a deal it was in terms of like Lawrence Toafili's ability, but he was the first guy that Mike Norvell called. He was already committed to Florida State. Mike Norvell called him when he got the job, and he's the first guy that got on the phone, and he said, I'm sticking with FSU, and he's been loyal to Norvell, and he's gotten better and better. He's gotten bigger, gotten stronger. So you'd like to see it work out for him. Yeah, I mean, I think he'll be an important weapon. That's all to say. I think it's going to be an important weapon, but that doesn't diminish the fact, like you said, yeah, I mean, he was not a guy that was a ready-made product. It's been a long process to develop him to where he is now.
All right, so looking back at this list now, I already mentioned Akeem Dent. I hate to just totally gloss over him, but, he is what he is. I think he's a good player, not a great player. Let's hopefully going to take another step this year and get even more consistent. But the 2 offensive linemen, I think it gets interesting here. These are 2 guys that might not even start, Ira.
Right.
So isn't that the fun of this? Casey Roddick is a guy that I think they'd like to play center if he could learn to snap. Doesn't look like he will. So if he doesn't, is he a guard? You certainly want to use him in short yardage situations. He's so big. Dimitri Emmanuel finally got approved, missed the spring, is a really good football player. has a chance to maybe start for them this year, has a ton of experience, but they're so deep there, he may not start. They've got other guys that are options at guard. So this is an example as we go through this top 40 of just how good this offensive line has a chance to be and how much deeper it is, Ira, than it's been at any point since we've been covering this team. And that includes the 2013 team.
I also like the fact, no, there's no question. I also like the fact that Dimitri Emanuel and Casey Roddick both are like renting cars at the 25-year-old age. Like they're getting that discount for being a 25. I'm pretty sure they're both in the 2017 recruiting class.
Wow.
They're 7th years of high school football. Dimitri's definitely on his 7th year of high school football. Casey's maybe in his 6th, but I think they were both in that 2017 recruiting class. And yeah, man, they're older dudes. They're grown men. And I don't know that, again, they started their careers. Casey Roddick at Colorado, Dimitri Emanuel played for, Alex Atkins at Charlotte. Charlotte.
Yeah, I said Charlotte.
And so, they probably were not guys that Florida State would have been fired up about signing coming out of high school, probably 3-star kind of guys. But now they're grown men, 23, 24 years old. And yeah, they could both start or neither one of them could start. If I had to put my money on it, I think there's a good chance they both start. I think if I'm Alex Atkins, man, in that LSU game, because of who you're playing in that opener, I want guys who I know exactly what they're going to do in a game situation. And I think that means Dimitri Emanuel starts. I think it means Maurice Smith starts. I think it means Robert Scott starts. I think maybe Bless Harris starts. I mean, I just think he's going to go with guys he knows, unless he thinks they physically can't do the job, he's going to go with those guys. And then that next group, man, I think Casey Roddick has got as good a chance as anybody because he's so big and strong. So, yeah, man, we're not jumping ahead to the top 20, but there's a bunch more offensive linemen in there. We just don't know. It's hard to know who's going to start. I mean, there's 8 or 9 guys who could end up starting.
So just so everybody knows, in terms of other offensive linemen that are going to be on this list, I won't give names away. I don't want to screw our list up, Ira, but to your point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so we've got plenty of offensive linemen coming up.
Right.
I mean, and I think it's a fun debate. I just really like that we're able to have it